You can imagine the reaction when Valve announced they were releasing a new game, and it was a hero shooter. In 2024 alone, we had 9 hero shooters release, not to mention the already established names. The genre's oversaturated, most people have grown distaste to them, and this is what Valve chose to make. Except IGN, they'll play anything.
It's at least good enough for me to recommend trying out.
The reaction online was interesting, and although some people were optimistic, it seemed most just didn't care.
Don't care plus ratio.
And can you really blame them? It was a baffling choice from Valve. They'd set themselves up for failure, and things only got worse. Early gameplay leaks came out in April 2024, and calling it rough would be an understatement. Yeah, the game was in early access, it wasn't finished, nowhere near. But try telling the internet that. Most of them don't realize the purpose of a playtest, and they just thought that's what the game would be like. You had 3 groups of people. The first one just didn't care and shrugged it off as another hero shooter. Another one thought the game just looked bad in its current state and didn't realize it was going to be changed. And the third group were optimistic, looking forward to it. I fell into the first one. Deadlock released to an invite-only playtest in the same month, with a select number of people getting invites from Valve. Content leaks were everywhere. People could get a proper look at the game, and it's fair to say this didn't help. Most didn't like what they saw. It wasn't looking good for Valve.
It's apparently just some unholy mixture of every popular eSports genre, just haphazardly smushed together in some hideous stew of game design. Wow, everyone, you get to play Counter-Strike and Dota and Overwatch all in the same game? Doesn't that sound fun? To me, it sounds completely nauseating.
August 2024. Deadlock was open to everyone. All you needed was someone to invite you, and the Steam community was flooded with invites. If you wanted access, you could get it, and having played it hands-on, reception was overwhelmingly positive. It had its flaws, of course, but the gameplay was addicting, the aesthetic was immersive, the heroes were unique and had diverse playstyles, and with its MOBA influence in gameplay, it was different to the hero shooters we'd seen previously. Deadlock is as much of a MOBA as it is a shooter, taking inspiration from League of Legends and Dota. Valve had managed to combine the two genres perfectly. MOBAs are known for being confusing. Just try getting into Dota as a new player. It feels like a full-time job. But Deadlock was different. It was simple, but with depth. Easy to understand and engaging. Played one game and you wanted to play another. And this was a brilliant decision by Valve, as I bet if you booted up Deadlock and it told you to start pushing the payload, everyone collectively would uninstall. The visuals were rough, and it put a lot of people off. But Deadlock has a beautiful aesthetic and atmosphere. It was a wise choice to change from the futuristic look that it was initially meant to have, back when the project was named Neon Prime. Now it has this gritty, old-timey, 20s New York vibe, and a lot of the characters fit in with this. It isn't just a theme for the sake of it, and throughout the game, you have these charming engagements between the heroes, similar to Overwatch.
So, you using that rope for work or recreation?
You are such a pig.
Nah, babe. I'm Lash.
Shut the fuck up.
Hello,
Oh God, it's talking to me.
I'm viscous.
I can see that.
I'm made of goo.
This could be a nightmare.
You guys seem nice.
That's because we are.
Why do you help horrible people?
Horrible people tend to have the most money.
Is money all that matters to you?
Parquet floors don't just arrive in your hovel, Ivy.
And the distant whisperings of the patron egging you on to complete the mission. They didn't need cutscenes or pages of lore. You just understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. And from the voice lines alone, it's great. Deadlock's sound design is a masterclass. Obviously Valve are skilled developers, but they really nailed it with the sounds. Abilities have clear sounds, you know what's being used, they all sound different, they're impactful, they're fitting, satisfying, and it's important in a game like Deadlock where you could just die and then you have to wait a minute to respawn. You need to know what's going on, and being able to tell that from the sound alone.
Burn it down! Here's the grand finale.
Goodbye.
There's no escape.
Now what about the gameplay, the most important part? Well, it's fantastic. If you don't know what a MOBA is, it's a strategy genre where you compete to destroy the other team's base. In Deadlock, you select a character that has 3 abilities and an ultimate, like most hero shooters, fighting an arena against an equal number of players for control. You can get money from killing other players and NPCs that spawn in, and use those to buy specific upgrades from a shop. This way, you can build your character and play in any way you want. You can turn your gun into a rapid fire minigun, you can fly around in a giant green ball, you can chain lightning between all the players, bleed them to death, so much more. It's addicting and replayable, the player count reflects this. In September 2024, Deadlock hit an all-time high of 170,000 players, breaking into the top 10 most played games on Steam. And remember, this is an invite-only playtest. You can't even just go on Steam and download it. The future was looking bright. Valve couldn't mess this up, right?
Hi, this is Gabe.
How did this happen? From September 2024 until February 2025, Deadlock has lost over 90% of its players, now only averaging about 10 to 15,000. Don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of active players who are enjoying the game, but this kind of fall off even rivals Overwatch. Valve must have done something really wrong to cause this kind of drop off. And they did, but not in the Overwatch way. As good as Deadlock is, they've taken so many missteps that most people prefer the version of Deadlock we had in April to the one we have now. Let's start off with balancing. Nobody expected Deadlock to be balanced. It's a playtest, that's the whole point of it. Valve is still trying to figure out what works and what doesn't, and balance changes are more than common in this type of game. But Valve took it way too far. Jesus Christ, imagine trying to keep up with all this. Take August for example. On August 1st, 7th, 15th, 16th, 19th, 23rd, 30th, and September 1st, we had major patches with dozens and dozens of changes. Hero shooters rely on people who are drawn to a certain hero. They connect with that hero's moveset and looks. That's why games like Overwatch can succeed even now, because players are so invested in their hero, they can't stop playing. When every week you log in and your favorite hero has been buffed, nerfed, or completely reworked, it makes Deadlock feel like a chore to play, especially when you have to remember all these interactions between abilities and heroes. I would never think Valve supporting a game would be a bad thing. Everyone's been crying out for them to do that with their other games. When they add new items in the shop and characters to play, it's all good, fun content. But they rarely do that. It's just balancing, and it really kills the casual scene. Okay, well, are the balance changes good? Nope. Most of them just seem random and dumb. It's like they were picking out of a hat, and then spun a wheel, and then flipped a coin, and then played roulette. You know, you get it. Why was this? Well, they only balance on what top level players think. This is a playtest, guys. It doesn't need to be competitive. Bad enough you already added MMR and ranking to casual modes.
But they just like listen to these like idiots giving them like dumbass opinion. They've been doing it since it was invite only, like way back then when it was like very like private or whatever in May. They still did that. They like listen to everything they say. Nerfing every character like that they say to nerf is like so a cancer, bro. Like those people are just stupid. They actually like killed that game. Sure, Force Fault. No, it's like all of them. Like all those people that are like in with the devs in that game. It's like a circle jerk fest. They have like a Discord and shit together. Just like so lost. These people are just so lost, just like non-stop crying about the game. Every patch, there's like something they cry about non-stop. Like just play the game, bro. Have fun. It's like a closed alpha invite only.
This might not be 100% factual. I wouldn't trust Sinatra to shit in my toilet, let alone give reliable information. But from what I've heard and read, he's right, and a lot of people agree with it. Basically, what's left is a playtest with no casual players and no dedicated ranked mode. A game for no one, played by no one. So can Deadlock be saved? Yeah, of course it can. I'm hopeful for the future of Deadlock, that one day it'll be a prominent name in the eSports scene. They just need to get a grip, stop getting pushed around by top players and balance the game how you want to balance it. Listening to the player base is important, of course, but you can never make everyone happy. If you're doing what everyone wants all the time, you end up spinning in circles. The best case scenario, Deadlock spends a couple more years in beta, which is what I think will happen. It probably won't release until 2026, 2027, maybe even later. And by then, they should have all things figured out. No more overtuning of characters and items, and straight up removal of things. Spiritual rebirth, my beloved. Oh yeah, and I haven't really mentioned their most recent blunder, Viper. Not that Viper, this Viper. She only released recently, and has already been nerfed multiple times. On release, Viper's DPS would easily hit 1800. By 10 to 15 minutes in, you could already have 1000 DPS. And I think most heroes at that point in the game have slightly over 1000, so you could literally kill people in about 1.5 seconds. She has this slide passive, which lets her slide for even longer and faster. And when you slide, you have infinite ammo in Deadlock. So she essentially had double the DPS of most other gun characters and infinite ammo. So you can see why she got nerfed, but it's just puzzling. How do you overtune every hero so badly to the point where a lot of them have just lost the fun and uniqueness that made them that hero? But then you release Viper. I need to stop. I have a lot more I could say about Deadlock, but I'm going to leave it here. Thank you if you watched this video all the way through. I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'm going to be replying to all the comments on this video if it gets any. And hey, even if this is the end for Deadlock and it's already peaked, then at least we had a few good months. That's a lot more than you can say about most games. In a bit, mate.